Hi, hello, mic test. Hi, hello. Good afternoon, everybody. Upskilling is one of the many words that's been used, misused, and abused badly. But the fact is, which has been revealed by one of the latest reports, that almost 50% of the current workforce needs to upskill themselves. And by 2026, 30 million of India's executives needs to be digitally competent. That's our agenda. And for that, these are some of the leaders who are in the role of guiding, mentoring, and grooming the next set of workforce of India. I would like to now open the panel, and I would love to know from you how, in your opinion, the teaching techniques have been evolving, especially with the incoming of technology, and more importantly, after COVID and the lockdown phase, we have kind of emphasized on the new teaching techniques a lot. Can we start with Ms. Surana, please? Your opening remarks.
Thank you, Businessworld. I think it's a very potent question. And what I see here is that design, because I come from design education, and I feel that design education is way ahead of other disciplines. While we do talk about science and other disciplines which have made great inventions and innovations, design actually brings everything together. The whole interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary approach of design and the understanding of design is very key for a developed nation. And when we talk about skilling, are we really understanding that design is the kind of skill that each and every student needs to learn right from the school level, where it starts from middle education to higher education? And most of us in India understand design as from the lifestyle perspective, look at it as fashion or products, and what it goes behind, creating these designs is something that most of us are not even aware of. While the fashion industry is one of the largest employer on the planet, it is also employs the largest number of women on the planet, and it is the largest one of the most highest revenue generating industries too. So we have largely seen design from a very superficial, from a very aesthetic point of view, or a visual delight kind of view. Whereas when you look at design today, design thinking is a key word that's floating around on the planet. Right from business schools to scientific acumen to everywhere, you hear the word design everywhere. But have we truly embraced design in the spirit and the understanding that it needs to be understood, where India, I feel, has lacked? I mean, we've really missed out on this opportunity for almost decades now. The world started with art and design, departments in universities some 50 years back. We have just stepped into it, right? We had only one institution, the NID, which was premier, and then we had a couple of NIFs now, but that is again more industry specific, whereas the National Institute of Design has done a great job. But look at the numbers that they actually churned out in the country when it comes to driving innovation. People even didn't know what kind of jobs a designer would get. Now, when we talk about design and design thinking, yes, the ADIPT process, which is, you empathize, you define a problem, you look at ideating, look at some convergent thinking, and some kind of divergent understanding that is very key there, and then prototype and test. I think it goes across all disciplines in this manner. And I think all disciplines, we've understood that students do not understand this. This is like the ABCD, it's as fundamental, and it keeps evolving as your problem statement grows and becomes complex. And today, when I look at design, looking at the skilling aspect, yes, the artificial intelligence is almost like taken over our thinking, we feel that it's the biggest thing on the planet. Who is creating that? It's humans who are creating that. So I think that the human is first, and then comes the artificial intelligence.
Absolutely, I also agree.
It's not a threat, it's a complementing factor. It's a huge complementing factor, but it cannot replace the true essence of education, which is the true skill, which is your cognitive skills, which comes with your hands. So I call the hand is the new brain today when people are not using their hands. And so I've just, is it that you want to take me on the second round? Then I
That's
have
right.
a couple of thoughts that
I would love to.
bring
I
on
would.
to.
I would love to listen to them.
So
but
I'd just like to share that, I'm fortunate that I'm representing as vice president on world's largest forum for art, media, design, and architecture from 70 countries. We have 370 universities and colleges across the globe as members. And India is for the first time on this international board after 30 years. And it's a privilege to be there to understand that where the world is thinking and what's going on on the planet. Yeah.
That is so impressive. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for
Thank you.
representing India at such a front, and you're going to lead that for us. Coming to you, Professor Gupta, would you kind of help us understand how and in what manner the teaching techniques have evolved, and what strategies kind of stood out for you?
Good afternoon. And it's very difficult to do the batting after lunch. And I'm sure all of you will agree with me. And second thing, unfortunately, I'm not the first person. She was the first person. So opening batsman is always in problem, I am thankful to the organizers for this invitation. I will try my best to do my justice to be here with you. Let me tell you, post-COVID or during COVID, we have heard several terms. One is online, hybrid, then is coming AI, machine learning, then has come the word interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, then is coming major, minor, and in between NEP entered into the picture. So all of us have put enough heads into that to understand about all these terms, jargons. Some of them have been misused, and some of them are taken into account properly. Post-COVID, if you realize using these terminologies, too many companies came out in the market. And again, they are coming to the institutes or university to sell their products. Very good initiative, lot many employments, and too many jobs in the domain of IT. What happened to my parent departments? Mechanical, civil, electrical, electronics. They are in bad shape. We could not provide the proper training, proper practical to all of these cases. And as a result, employment has come a big problem for them. Once they come to know that, or industry comes to know that he is from COVID, during COVID period person, and they are not getting selected. So upskilling is most important parameter for them. What steps we have taken? I will not tell at this moment about GLA University, my university. I will tell that across the country that we are trying our best to handshake with industries. I know some of the industries will die after some time, but some of them will survive. And they will be using proper words, AI and ML also into the picture. Now, success will come once you can sell properly. Otherwise, you are in problem, because all these jargons, all these words are very, very complicated one. If I ask a boy or student, what for you are using AI? Is this a simple optimization problem? You can solve it without using the AI. No, sir, you have to use the word AI, otherwise I will not get the job. This is the current scenario, believe it or not, without understanding, because they don't have any scope to understand that why I am using AI, why I have to use machine learning, why I will be using the deep learning, and everybody is working in this domain. If you ask any computer science students, everybody will tell, sir, I am working in the domain of AI or ML or deep learning. But why I need? Let us first solve the problem of fundamentals. Fundamentally, they are very weak. Believe it not. Even if you ask the school arithmetic or geometry, they will not be able to solve the problem properly. If I tell them that a square minus b square equals to a plus b into a minus b, prove it in geometrically, they are gone. Because we are responsible for that. And because of online, hybrid, all those things are in picture. What I have seen, the boy is in the field, cultivation field, and he has kept his mobile on. And his attendance is on. Unfortunately, he did not attend the class. And the boy is having only maybe 4-inch by 1-inch mobile phone because he is not from the rich family. And I have covered the syllabus. The boy appeared the exam, and the exam passing rule was very simple this time because of the regulatory authority. Whoever appeared the exam, you have to allow them to clear their backlogs, and then you are in again problem because he could not solve the problem since he doesn't know anything about the prerequisite component. So upskilling is required, and lot of initiative have been taken care by the government of India, by the industry, by the management, but the problem is somewhere else also. One major problem is that infrastructure, appropriate infrastructure, whether we have. Where from I will get the money? Who will give this money? That industry, see, if you see the day I will reach my Mathura, I will get a call from various industries. Sir, I have the solution for you, this type of thing. But who will pay me, give me this money? So the government or the regulatory authority or the industry should come out with certain ideas how to upskill. Proper diagram should be there, that this way I must be able to solve the problem of upskilling. Otherwise, the initiative is very nice. I am sure that one day we will achieve the goal, and because government initiative is very, very effective one, till date what we observe. At this moment, let me stop, and then we'll come again if required.
Thank you, Professor Gupta. Whereas we agree or disagree, but the point here is what the pertinent point Professor Gupta made is we are kind of getting carried away by the fancy terms or the fancy segments of AI, ML sometimes. But the need is to focus on the fundamentals, correct them well so that you can get onto the ground, get into the competitive space, and perform well. That's what a very pertinent point Professor Gupta made. Coming to you, Mr. Parulekar, my point here to you is what kind of strategies in your observation in the last 2 to 3 years have kind of helped students in upskilling, and that too for teachers as well? And also, a second part of my question would be, do you have some different take on this, what Professor Gupta has just mentioned?
Yeah, so, firstly, thank you, Businessworld for inviting me and inviting the rest of the panelists. It's a pleasure to be here. So I'll take the first question that you had posed to both the panelists earlier, which is on new technologies. And I think, there's very little new that's happened in higher education for a very long time. It's one of the only industries that I know of which hasn't got disrupted as yet, right? And that's very surprising. I mean, think of top universities anywhere in the world, anywhere in the country, and how many of the modern universities that are top universities that you see have folded and closed shop. It's only the lower end that closes shop, right? Whereas wherever else you see disruption, whether it is telecom and Nokia and Kodak and whoever else in whatever industry, you've seen that there has been largely a tech-driven disruption. That's not happened here. And I'm saying modern universities. So if I say which top universities are you aware of that no longer existed, people think of Nalanda, Takshashila. They're reviving Nalanda is a different story, but that's not modern university. I mean, that's once upon a time. Therefore, I think today is the time where that disruption, that inflection point for disruption seems to be happening. I think technology is something that's going to do that. And by the disruption, I don't mean necessarily that, the top universities will close shop. I just mean that the way education is going to be delivered is going to change. There are changes in some of the techniques that have been used in school. I mean, by school, I mean business school, or whatever, school of design, school of university. I'm largely looking at higher education. So you do have like the case method and experiential learning, and every now and then you get some little tweaks as such. But I think the big thing, according to me, and what's got accelerated by the last 3 years, and you also asked me what is my take on what Professor Gupta just said, is I think technology is going to rock education. And when I say rock education, don't get me wrong. I'm very clear about the fact that the social experience of having offline, in campus, that's invaluable. That at least today, there's no remote way that it's going to get replaced, at least in the near future. Someday maybe you will have VR, AR, that will be really good, that will give you that kind of experience. But I'm not trying to say that one over the other. But I do think that, with a gross enrollment ratio in higher education of 26% that the government wants to double to, 50%, that's not going to happen in this traditional model. And where's the infrastructure? Where is the money going to come from? Those are questions that cannot be answered. The only way that's going to happen is learners who cannot go to traditional kind of modes, online is the way out for them. And in that disruption, I think part of the disruption is going to come by new age universities. Not every university has to aspire that as they become bigger to become a Harvard, right? I mean, everybody does aspire, and that's the only model. I think, therefore, there is an opportunity for disruption that the technology will bring in. I do agree, to a lot of points that my previous two panelists talked about, a student is in the field and, mobile is on and presence is there. That's because we are early. The infrastructure is not there. So if you want to do, let's say, hybrid education where some students are in class and some are, elsewhere, you need great infrastructure for that. You need equal presence in the class for each member, including each member outside there. So the visibility that somebody in your classroom has, the same visibility should be possible for the person who's sitting at home or is on a hospital bed or, is somewhere else in a family function that they cannot leave and they would have otherwise been absent. So that's one. The second thing is in terms of online, what a lot of institutions ended up doing, forced by COVID, was replicating what you did in class online. Now, that's not going to work. As a medium changes, obviously you've got to change. Online engagement tools that you have, there are fabulous tools online. There are certain advantages that online bring in which a physical classroom doesn't. For example, if there's one disinterested student in the class, they are going to disturb people sitting next to them. That doesn't happen online. If you're disinterested, you're the only one that's going to lose out. Everybody else is able to still kind of, participate. And therefore, online surveys, clickers, there are so many kinds of, Kahoot. You have so many different kinds of, platforms that are available. Once you combine those and you truly make your class available online, developing great quality, asynchronous learning tools, the flexibility that you can give to people. You don't have to be there at this time, at this place. You can be anywhere. You can learn at any time. And you'll just have, these are the 6 lessons you've got to do in a week's time. So I do think that that's going to really rock education. Higher education for sure. But I think, the challenges as you go to primary education, as you go to, poorly funded, institutions, to people, when you're serving communities where it's difficult to get access to technology, I think the challenge is going to be multifold there.
When we know that India is now ample of opportunities lying with advanced tech coming in, but you mentioned about the disruption is yet to take place when it comes to higher education. Do you have a broad timeline in your understanding by when we can see tech rocking in edtech?
So the challenge with technology, it's very, very difficult to be able to predict. And when I say it's difficult to predict, usually when you look at diffusion of technology or adoption of technology, I think one of the things that has been used most commonly is the BAS model, the Frank BAS model. But that model is very difficult to find, for new tech. For example, your generative AI, what's commonly known as ChatGPT. ChatGPT touched 100 million users, active users, in less than 2 months. There is nothing else. I mean, TikTok, whatever you take, nothing has come anywhere close to this. And therefore, it's very difficult to predict. However, because it's going to require a lot of, let's say the hardware needs to be available in various places, I don't think that disruption is going to happen like overnight. It's going to take time. It's going to probably take a decade. In a decade's time, I do think that you're going to have significant inroads that's going to be made. In the developed world, it's going to happen faster. So you already have a lot of large corporations in the United States who are willing to say, I'm looking at the skill set alone. If you don't have a certificate that comes from a university, but you have the skill set, I'm willing to employ. We are in India very far away from that. It'll take many more years, but I think that's already started in certain economies. It's just a matter of time.
Thank you, Ajit. This was really put together. Thank you so much for this insight. Coming to you, Ms. Surana, they talked about, Professor Gupta talked about some drawbacks in infrastructure right now, but we are hopeful that we'll get there. Do you also somehow face some challenges, some broad aspect challenges, some complicacies when it comes to School of Design, specifically when we talk about upskilling?
Okay. See, I have something which is, because I'm been a very hands-on person, experiential learning is what I completely believe in, and understand that it can never ever be replaced by any kind of technology or any kind of a different understanding. So if I say, let's get back to ABC, right? So while artificial intelligence is right now the key word and everybody wants to get onto that bandwagon and talk about it, I think it's interesting because yes, virtual reality, artificial reality, immersive learning, new simulations. With the simulation, why we've seen it in the medical sector, now you will see it in all the sectors. The fashion industry, the design industry is the one who is actually far, far ahead because the lifestyle industry demands that kind of thing, right? What you see today in the world is all a reflection of what is that deeper work that has gone inside. So, when I talk about the A, that's artificial intelligence, because that is something that will bring the world together. And we are today wanting to create an impact on the planet. Any business is looking at large numbers, larger impact, larger reach, larger numbers, right? While you are sitting in a small city, you can reach out to the world through technology. So technology will be a great enabler. We all need to focus our education in bringing technology and the different kind of technologies to our classroom. However, it's not about, whether we like it or not like it, because when you look at we are the people who are from the last 3-4 decades who have been educators, not many people would really appreciate. They would say that yes, we need to be back to basics, right? And my second is, the first is the technology, the artificial intelligence, the other is the back to basics. It's very, very important. We've seen that people are losing out on their abilities to draw, sketch, technical drawing, renders, whatever. They feel everything is available on different platforms today. You can pick and choose and do. Your brain can only do that work if you have the ability to do it yourself, right? Today, I just got one email which was written by a student who just graduated, right? And the mail is so verbose. It is going into that depth that it didn't require that kind of talking and using of those kind of words, because it was all cut, paste and copied from ChatGPT. So the sensitivity is what is missing now when you're going to be copying and pasting. Now, this is so people who have the ability to know to do things by hands, to understand, even writing your notes when you're taking a class, we have given up on all of this. which should not ever be the case, because that's very, very key for any kind of learning. And we cannot negate our learning of histories and generations and generations. So back to basics is very, very important. While technology is an enabler, back to basics is what we, as educationists, we all need to keep that balancing act, right? Yes, I am a great, I would say, somebody who truly believes in collaboration, because collaboration is what brings out the best of everybody. So to be very interesting, Arch College of Design and Business, we've been there for 23 years. And I've had very humble beginnings. In fact, to that humble, that just started in 3 rooms, right? And over these years, I've seen how education has evolved, how design has evolved, how the kind of difference it has brought to the whole ecosystem. So I strongly believe that collaboration between industry and academia is very, very key for any kind of learning, because the academia can never bring those resources what the industry has, right? The kind of equipment, infrastructure, the investments. Academics can never bring that kind of investment inside the system, where, because unless until you're government funded, like in a lot of UK institutions and other places where they do invest in a lot of technology and they are ahead of the industry in terms of research and other areas, we've seen that this kind of infrastructure is definitely not available in our country. Yes, there are a lot of institutions who are trying to do that, but the industry will also always be 10 steps ahead of us. So that partnership is very, very key. But now I have a very radical point here to say. The UK just, put on a policy saying that interns cannot be, they need to be paid. Once they finish the program, if they're on internship, they have to be paid. They cannot be kept for free. In India, we have this whole culture that the industry feels they're doing a favor on the academia by giving them the opportunity of getting their students getting internship with them, right? So this is where I think we need a strong policy where the industry needs to acknowledge the academia and the contribution it is making. Our job is to make a strong foundation. It's like a building, and the levels are created at when the student actually becomes a professional and grows in his life, and in different stages with different companies, they learn different stages. So it's like you making your own building structure. But the foundation is what has to be very, very strong. And that's what the education does. And we have to understand that we are creating that foundation. And the industry cannot, just take us for granted, in the sense that their contribution has to be equally there in terms of participating and even investing with the institutions, right? So this is one area that I strongly feel that there has to be a policy, like what the UK put in as a policy. Like we give daily wages, so I think, which is a bare minimum kind of thing that you need to give to somebody. So you could probably give them. That's an acknowledgement of somebody that you're taking on and you're making the best. So collaboration, yes, definitely industry, academia, even institution to institution. That kind of culture also does not exist in our country, right? We are very competitive in nature, not complementing. So everybody is in that race to actually, have more number of students. It's not about the quality of education. Today, quality of education is compromised because of the large numbers that we are just trying to make sure that we fill up our seats and make sure that the revenues, the investment of the infrastructure of an university can actually, a setup can be actually, fulfilled, because there are a lot of private universities and there's a huge competition. But I still hear that post-COVID, the numbers are going low in university setups, yeah? So why is now today, looking at why is this happening? What does the student feel? That they don't require this kind of education to spend that, and they want to get into the workforce and learn as an apprentice. They really want to learn with the real people. So collaborating with the real people is very, very important. The classroom needs to have those real people interactions and scenarios that can actually make education relevant and meaningful. So I simply have to say the ABCs is what we need to be back to the basics to actually make sure that we are relevant and meaningful. Because, and I see this, that today our people are missing out on that skill. I'm seeing the students, the batch which was, post-COVID, the ones who are just coming in, who have missed out 2 years of education. We have seen that they are somewhere having all the paraphernalia around them. They look good, as per the social media, they have to be all well-dressed and looked, and on the face value, everything looks great. But if you really ask them at the depth of things, they are missing out on it. And that's what the job of education is, to actually create human beings, the beings who will actually create this new future. So
Thank you
yes,
so much.
technology is a great enabler.
Thank you
and-
so much, Ms. Surana. Great point made. ABC. So advanced tech, back to basics, and collaboration. What matters to Ms. Surana, if I can sum up that way. And we will close our discussion on very, very pertinent point. I would like to draw your attention to the NEP policy. It has been 3 years now. In your observation, what has been most impressive out of all of the initiatives? And what impact has it made already? Professor Gupta, would you like to take it up?
Mine is simple thing that let us have the proper innovation techniques. Right? Government is spending huge amount of money on innovation. Then industry is coming forward to help academicians or academia. What I want, if possible, that one or two industry picks up one or two university, that I will see that proper innovations, have been made by the students of that university. That every university has some good, strong points. Some of them are having weak points. Let us fix that one, and that will be the best takeaway from this discussion. Yes, let us have some innovations or innovation centers for the country. Thank you.
Mr. Parulekar, your take on what has been the impact of NEP in last 3 years? What has been some of the most impressive, most efficient strategies or initiatives? And also, if you can kind of conclude your take in 3 points, 3 suggestions, 3 advices that should be taken forward.
Sure. Regarding NEP, I think it's too early. Right now, there is chaos.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right now, I don't think there is any great work happening because NEP is revolutionary in thought, but there is a lot of detail that needs to be put in place before implementation goes the right way. Right? There is one of the things that's happening in NEPs, there's a structural change. I mean, NEP doesn't see every state you have different systems running. So you have like smaller colleges affiliated to universities. What happens to them is so having clusters, constituent colleges, new kinds of universities, all of that, there is going to be a little bit of a mess because it's a major shake-up. I think, the timelines are, the only thing that's good about it is the philosophy is great and the timeline is reasonable. I mean, they're looking at by 2035. So if we're looking at 3 years, what happened? I'm glad not much has happened because it would have been too soon, too fast, right? So what I think is going to happen as a result of that is you're going to see consolidation. Because NEP doesn't see small institutions. They see institutions being with a minimum size of 3,000 students. And therefore, you will see a lot of consolidation. One great thing, I don't know how we are going to be able to execute it, is, not working in silos. So this multidisciplinarity in principle seems really good to do. And I think at least for universities and larger institutions, having people, therefore, to have everybody needs to, to have a little bit more liberal education. That's everyone needs to have an understanding of STEM. Everybody needs to have an understanding of humanities and whatever you want to specialize in. And I think that's something in the countries where they've had more liberal education, you have a much better civil society. Sure. Right? Because people can appreciate everything to be able to then become informed citizens and things like that. So that I think is the second good part about NEP. There are several other things that are there in terms of, if a student goes in an undergrad program, out of 4 years, if they complete 3 years and then they have to exit, they go with, completely empty-handed. Today you will have credit, certification, a bank of credits available. And therefore, I think that's, a 3-year completed is better than not started at all. And you get some credentialing happening for that. I think that's the third positive thing. In terms of, messages to give, I think one of the messages I think is No matter whether you're an educator or administrator in primary school or in doctoral education, embrace technology. I'm not saying technology is going to wipe things out. Human ingenuity is far too good to get wiped out. But I do think that if you're able to embrace and play around with technology, your institution is likely to be able to benefit the most from technology. Sure. See technology as an enabler and not something as to be scared of. The second is, if you're I'm assuming there are more administrators here. If your teachers are giving you a lot of reasons why it doesn't make sense for their respective subjects or their research or for whatever that they do and how the technology doesn't fit in, it's natural. Whenever you find any kind of disruptive change that's happening, there should be, the higher the resistance to change, the higher is the possibility of impact of that particular technology. And therefore, don't be dissuaded by that. Don't steamroll. Go slow. Find ways in which you can get people upskilled over a gradual period of time. So that's the second one. And the third, I think, is India as an happening country. So when I'm saying India as a happening country, I teach in business school in a couple of parts in Europe. I can tell you at least the student sentiment that you have in India today is very different from, it's very, very optimistic. You go to Europe, no matter where you go in Europe, and if you ask a question, and I ask this question, the question that I ask students there is, what do you think is going to be your quality of life and your lifestyle? Equivalent to your parents, better than your parents, worse off than your parents. Over 80% of students across Belgium, UK, Spain, Portugal, these are the 4 places where I teach, over 80% of students feel it's going to be worse off than parents. Yeah. Tell me one young Indian that you can find who's not optimistic about the future. And I think we should encash on that. If you give great value, the money comes. I mean, in India, the money will come, the jobs will happen, all of that will happen if you give great value. Yeah,
Good to know, Ajit. Before
Here
you
I'd
could
like to
add,
just-
absolutely. I could say Miss Surana nodding all the time and agreeing with what Ajit was mentioning. But this is actually the India's decade, and I call these times the time of happy confluence. Over to you, Miss Surana.
So it's a cycle, right? So they've seen their heydays, they've seen everything, they've got so much technology already, they've got the infrastructure, and you start taking it for granted. The moment you start taking it for granted, you are in a problem. So I think this generation that they have right now has seen so much of wealth and abundance that, for them, that's the only world. They don't even acknowledge that there is any other world that even exists. And we are somebody who have been, deprived because of the colonial rule and have an aspiration. So that hunger is very, very important for anybody. As a student, if you want to skill yourself, you need to have that hunger. So I think till that this nation has that hunger, I think we will always, the hunger to learn, the hunger to contribute, the hunger to impact. And that's very, very key for growth. And I think with, what our nation is doing right now, the leadership, the way it is shaping up the country, the kind of innovation that's happening, the kind of inspiration that the youth is getting, right from Chandrayaan-3 to the kind of global exposure that it's giving towards, with the kind of projects that are going on. I think it's a great, great time of this country. But, to be very honest, I'll tell you, it's a great competition with China. I mean, because I sit there and I still see that China is such an aspiration for the world. I mean, for all European countries, to all countries for that matter. And I think India needs to become more aspirational. Whether we are happy inside, but they are really envious of us. And I see that very categorically in conversations to everything, because the way we are rising as a nation. I think we need to keep this positive spirit of India alive and support our people, our nation, our work, our efforts. And that's how we will be able to really make that impact that we want to. Because we have to stand as one. And that's what is the, our diversity, what we called as our unity and our strength. I think that diversity has to really become our unity, because that's what other nations, probably I'm talking about China, they have that. And we are somewhere. We need to inculcate this value very strongly now in this nation if we really want to have a great footprint on the planet.
Great take, Mr.
And right from skilling, I mean the kind of infrastructure, the kind of, the services the world is drawing from us. We lack nothing, actually. We just don't lack anything right now. What we lack is that, we need to really believe in our values and our roots once again. I strongly believe in that part. Yeah.
Great to know. At this point in time, India holds immense potential to excel and to go beyond all across. Before we actually close, Professor Gupta, do you have something to say? We just have a minute left.
How many minutes?
Just a minute.
Just a minute. Okay. Let me tell you one thing, that whatever is going on, it will go on smoothly. And believe it not, we'll shine one day and we will achieve our target that will become the developed country by 2040. Let us keep it the way we are progressing. Let the industry come forward, help us in determining everything, whatever the way they are helping, and let the Government of India or regulatory authority also understand the pulse of the students, because nowadays students are very, very overloaded. You cannot imagine the amount of load we have put on them, and I know that it is very difficult for them to go back to that basic, because we have put them minor, we have put them major, we have put them multidisciplinary, we have put them humanities, we have put them physical exercise, or whatnot, everything. You cannot imagine the total 26 credit unit per semester, and the volume of work they are doing is very, very difficult to achieve. But while I'll go there, I'll tell, no, 26 is very small. I know. But it is really, really overloaded. I have all the best. I'm sure that India will succeed one day. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I just want to leave one more thought, the word developed nation. It's a very Western understanding of what is developed and what is not developed. They have made us not a so much developed nation, right? We have to stop using this word that we will become a developed nation. We were a developed nation. We are a developed nation today, right? We went through a bad trajectory, which is fine, but it's not about कि हम एक दिन बन जाएंगे. हम हैं. And today what we've done on the planet is revolutionary. People are creating revolution. Look at the number of CEOs of the companies that are on the planet today with all the big multinationals. They are all Indians. So they have the brains for it. And it's the brain that matters more than anything else, right? That's what is creating. So I think we have to never use this. We've also been used as the global South, right? Which needs to be given charity. That's another version of the Western world, right? This thing. And I think we need to break that whole concept of that global South also. And yes, people are now seeing that India is not a part of that global South. We have the capacity to support the global South. That is what we are as a nation, right? So thank you so much.
Good to know. It seems really, really difficult to stop here, but because of the time paucity, we will stop here. I must thank all my panelists to join in and for great insights. Can we have a great grand applause for them?